Here we go, the Downward Facing Spiritual Spiral podcast. I'm Eddie Cohn, host, creator of the show. We're just going to get right into it today. I'm feeling good, feeling lucky, feeling like life is a gift. I had this strange health scare the other day, and boy, health stuff can certainly reprioritize what's important, right? Being able to communicate with you, being able to walk and talk and think freely, can't take any of that for granted. And today I think you got a great conversation in store for you with the wonderful, thought-provoking, trying to think of another adjective or adverb here, intellectual Joanne Gerstner, fantastic writer, journalist. She just started a new newsletter on Facebook called opencourt.bulletin.com, or at rather, opencourt.bulletin.com. And she's just an incredible writer. She's a journalist. She teaches journalism at Michigan State, but she just created, it's very similar to Substack. You know, I'm a big fan of Substack and Barry Weiss. Seems like it's the same model. I really like, and I'm really gravitating and connecting with her perspective on the world. And it's not only just about sports. I know her focus is sports journalism, but I like writers who share perspective on different areas in the world. And it's weird. I do feel like, and this is, Joanne and I touch on this a bit, but it's strange, but I do struggle sometimes with this idea that I should only focus on one thing, or I should only talk about one thing. And the reality is that I think a lot of people think that way because the algorithms and social media clearly benefits those who are sort of like myopically focused on one area. And I know by saying myopically focused, that could almost come across as being somewhat judgmental or negative, but it does feel like social media rewards or sort of prefers people that focus on one particular area. And I do like writers and people and podcasters who share their perspective on different areas. I think that's exciting. I think that's what makes us human beings, and we're curious. And I think we need to stop thinking about what technology and what we think, is appropriate for our brand or what our followers really want. It's okay to change it up and try something new and share your perspective on different areas. And I think that's what I really connect with Joanne. I mean, she's really articulate and smart and has a nuanced perspective on sports and the world. But I think she is willing to just put it out there, which is great. So I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. She's just really wonderful and very articulate and just very, I find myself thinking when I'm done speaking with her. So I imagine you'll be feeling the same. So again, you can find Joanne's newsletter, type in opencourt.bulletin.com. You can sign up there. You can find her on Twitter. I always forget her handle on Twitter. It's Joanne C. Gerstner. She's also on Instagram. Instagram is Joanne G313. I have no idea what the 313 is. I'm just going to say that maybe 313 is an area code, possibly in the Midwest, but I have no idea. But maybe she'll let me know about that some other time. We talk about sports. We talk about the news media. We talk about BTS. We talk about swimming. We're both big swimming fans, and you also hear our cats a little bit in the background. So it's a great talk. Thanks again, Joanne, for taking the time to speak to me. I truly appreciate it. You know where to find me all on Instagram at Eddie Cohn or the Spiritual Spiral Podcast. Website, IamEddieCohn.com. All my new music is out on all streaming sites. And that is it. Thanks so much to all of you for listening, supporting, and being a part of the Downward Facing Spiritual Spiral podcast. So I'm trying to compete with Russell Brand and his newsworthy stories on YouTube. So I appreciate you chatting with me again.
No problem. No problem. Don't try to compete with the others. Just be yourself.
No, I know. I'm trying to add a little levity here because, well, I've been reading your I'm not bi-weekly. What's
It's
double,
twice a week.
twice,
It's twice a week.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's going to be Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm moving it from Mondays to Tuesdays because
Okay.
there's so much going on that sometimes I need some time to process what happened on the weekend. So
Yeah.
taking a little time to think and do some stuff is good. So Tuesdays and Fridays, Open Court comes out usually about 2, 3 o'clock Eastern. That's what I'm aiming for. So it's done live. Nothing's rehearsed. We go with what we got,
Yeah.
and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But whatever it is, we're doing our best.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I just had a writer on my show, and it's actually, I feel like it's inspired me to um, sort of go down that route a little bit. I mean, there's a lot here story wise that we could talk about, but I kind of want to go make it a little more personal right now. What's inspiring you to write, and I don't know if it changes over the years. I kind of want to go do a little backstory, but let's keep it topical and current. What inspired Open Court, and what's inspiring you right now to write?
That's a great question because Open Court is literally an experiment in progress, both for myself personally, but also for Facebook. It's its first entree into having the newsletter genre for journalists. So the goal of Open Court is to, frankly, develop a good business model where there's tons of journalists that have gone to Substack and other platforms to monetize their journalism. And Facebook, through its bulletin.com platform, so it's opencourt.bulletin.com, is aiming to do that. So the goal ultimately for this is to build up my subscriber base, and then half of it will probably be free, and then there'll be some premium content, a mix. I'm not going to be completely greedy and say pay for everything. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
So the goal for Open Court is literally the name. It's open, and there's so many things that interest me. And I was just talking with somebody this week who's very knowledgeable about the newsletter game, and he was saying, sports newsletters are some of the hardest ones to do because sports is so broad. I mean, if I was just writing about the stock market, I'm here. If I'm just writing about food or fashion or, whatever, I'm very, the more narrow you can make things, frankly, the more successful some of these newsletters are because they're to a very narrow casted audience. But my interests, the sports world itself, is very open. And, sometimes I might want to be goofy and just talk about some of the ridiculous stuff that's happening in a lighthearted way. But other times I do want to go into the absolute horrific handling of sexual assault within the college sports and obviously the Olympic level, or what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. I just wrote about that on Friday, about how his research at, what I call it, the Joe Rogan School of Medicine, is crap. And it's selfish and it's stupid. And, those things frustrate me. So I react both as a journalist, but also as a fan. Like, these are the things I care about. And whatever I do or what I write about is what strikes me in kind of in my gut. Like, I need to talk about this. So it's not as planned out and scripted as my other writing for other places has to be, which is both good and bad. So I'm a little looser, a little goofier, I'm a little funnier. I definitely swear more.
Yes, you do.
So it's a different style of writing, but very much an experiment in progress.
Just to educate me, though, I know all about Substack. I have, to your point, and I don't know if this is to my demise, but I do think we are creating a world where you have to be myopic in the way that you almost create. And I think it's hard for me because I podcast, I'm a writer, I make music, I'm a DJ, and I don't know if that's to my demise in a strange sort of way, but I feel like the world is almost not making, but inspiring people to just sort of be very one-track minded. I thought it was my cat. To be one-track, like it's like you can't explore. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and that was kind of the intellectual discussion I had with, as he said to me, your advantage is that you're very well, knowledgeable about a lot of things. Your disadvantage is you're knowledgeable about a lot of things.
Yes.
People want only one thing. So I said, well, it's kind of like going to an ice cream shop and only having one flavor. I said, we don't want a choice. He said, yes, that, it's good. But the problem is that the monetization, aka, the capitalist part of this, the more niche and more specific you can get, the more you can capture your pie of the audience. And because sports is so broad, he said, if you just wrote about one thing, say if I only wrote about the Dallas Cowboys, it'd be very easy to do this because I'd have, I know my audiences, it'd be very, locked in and that's it. I'd never write about anything else, just the Cowboys. Well, if I'm going to do this twice a week and feed my soul and feed my mind and hopefully write in an authentic way, I'm not limited to one thing. I don't always choose the same flavor of ice cream, and I don't always want to write about the Dallas Cowboys. So to your point, being a jack of all trades is no limitation. But my view of this whole Substack, bulletin.com, so I'm sure there's others going to be coming, is that we are taking some of the expertise, some of the knowledge, some of the discussions that frankly should be in newspapers and magazines in the mainstream, and we're narrowcasting them to a smaller audience, and hopefully we're engaging them with the community. But on the downside, some of the stuff that I'm writing and saying should be in other places because they're not just topics for my audience, they're topics what everyone should care about. So it's almost like we're taking a magazine, like a really good magazine, and busting it into pieces and just sending this part here. Whereas I might have wanted to read the whole magazine and learn about stuff I didn't know about because it exposed me to it.
Right.
So I really wonder about that for our audience. But, this is where we're at right now. And it does give journalists platforms. I mean, some of the stuff that I've written about, I know probably wouldn't have gotten published in other places. Like I wrote for Indigenous Peoples Days, I wrote about the rise of lacrosse in the United States. Lacrosse has been played for, forever by tribes and nations, but now the talent is being recognized at the university level. So you can get a full ride to Syracuse or to Johns Hopkins. And just the whole transition of going from something that was native to your culture to now using it as a vehicle to go to college is very different than how it is for a lot of people in most sports. Right. And I don't think that would have been published anywhere else. I really don't, because not enough interest. It would have been hard to justify, well, who cares about this? And I know it's cynical, but that's the way, you have to approach these things. They have limited time, limited space. Would you rather read about Michigan State, in my world, or would you rather read about Indigenous lacrosse?
Yeah.
The clicks win.
Well, I think you probably know who Barry Weiss is, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, I don't know if you're a fan. I am a fervent fan, if that's the right usage of that word, but I'm a strong supporter of hers. And I think what you're feeling and what she's feeling, and I'm not a journalist, but I think my frustration in the world, the news media to me, and you wrote this pretty scathing piece about a month ago, which, I wanted to read something really briefly from it. Where did it go? I don't want to waste too much. Okay, here it is. Fewer journalists and more opinion monsters leave the truth running in second place. And I feel like strong reporting takes time, effort, and money. You can't snap your fingers and uncover things. Crafting a news article or report takes skill and discipline. I think what you're touching on and what Barry's touching on, and even, I joke about Russell Brand, but I actually go to him for the news. And Barry Weiss, to me, is giving me nuanced perspective. And I don't think the news media is doing their job anymore. And I don't know if, it's strange. I feel like attention span, I promise I will have a point or a question soon, but I feel like it's this, I don't know if you've read the book Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Portman.
I've heard of that. I've not read it, though.
Well, he's basically, this came out in the 80s, but he's basically citing that the news media wasn't holding truth at the top. And when you couple that with people's dwindling attention span and this just need to be entertained, like as long as I have 6 hours of Hulu at my fingertips, I don't even care. So it's almost like the news media is taking advantage of people's apathy and they're obfuscating the truth. I don't know if they're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, but it's sort of creating this world where we need somebody to give us the truth, or at least seem like they're going to try to give us the truth. Because it feels like the major news media corporations they no longer hold truth up. They don't. That's not highly revered anymore.
It's that right there is a whole PhD project for somebody
Sure.
Much smarter than me to do. But to me, a few things have happened. Number one, if you're really cynical about this, you'll argue the media never told the truth. That up until probably the 1970s, it was white, it was male, it was Cronkite and all these guys that were processing. They didn't tell the truth about Kennedy. They didn't tell we never knew that FDR was in a wheelchair and couldn't move. I mean, there are a lot of things that we didn't know, and the shadings of World War II, and I mean, you could go down the list. Racial tensions not being talked about. How there's just a lot of bad stuff has happened, filtered through the media. So when you say the truth, this is the challenge that I have when I talk to people that are just like, oh, how can you live with being a journalist? You're a good person. That's a disgusting job. And this is the problem. People don't want to hear the truth anymore, Eddie. This is the whole thing is when someone does tell the truth, like actually tell the truth and it's verifiable, they get attacked, they get torn down. That's not true. And the problem is if MSNBC says the truth, and I'll just be kind and say Fox News says true things, no one's going to believe the other side because we're so polarized. So even the message of the truth is now lost in the filtering. Now, obviously the media has gotten more diverse. If I had been born, 50, 60 years earlier, I would never have had my job. I mean, frankly, if I had not been born in Gen X, I wouldn't have had my job. So, the gatekeepers of who talked about what and who processed what have always been there. But I think what has changed, and especially accelerated, I'd say since, I want to say about 2005, is the acceleration of the strip mining of media for profit, for Wall Street. And, I can just tell you, when I was hired at the Detroit News, it was 1999. I, at one point, woke up in 2006, and it was like, wow, my workload is incredible. I stepped back and realized that I had assimilated pieces of 6 other people's jobs that either retired or laid off and had never gotten replaced. It's unsustainable because, for me as a sports writer, covering the NBA is a full-time gig. Covering the Olympics is a full-time gig. If you want me to be an investigative/feature reporter, that takes a full-time gig. Yeah. I was doing that all at the same time. So when you talk about the truth and uncovering and finding it, we're all burned out. And then on top of it, when we're burned out, we're also getting attacked by the public, through social media or through email or whatever means. And, I think for a lot of people that I know, I mean, I could make you a list of 100 amazing journalists, a lot of them women, obviously, because they're from, my team,
right,
that quit. They're just done. They should be in the business. They would be doing amazing things, but they're like, you know what? It's not worth it. This is not worth it. I'm being underpaid, overworked, harassed to no end. And then I'm supposed to tell you the truth on top of it, So it's very hard to provide structure. Now, obviously, we have to be more fine about our points. Television news is a very different game than print, which is a very different game than social. So we're and then radio, we don't depend on radio much for news anymore. So I really think, understand that TV news has become, I think the rise, and I had that in that article, the rise of reality TV has corrupted what reality is. So we've got that problem.
You brought up a good point though, and I think we are allowing social media to control what people in the news media are writing about. Like even when Alec Baldwin had that terrible incident happen, somebody on Twitter is finding old tweets that he tweeted that were sort of anti-gun. OBJ's dad is tweeting something, and then the news media is actually talking about what these people are doing.
Well, there's a few things there. Number one, if you look at the percentage of who is on Twitter, it's majority media driven. So it's like the echo chamber of things in Twitter land. And frankly, that's what Trump hit upon so well. He weaponized Twitter. Would that go to journalists? And journalists reported on, oh, but it's the news. I saw it on Twitter. Well, no, it may not be the news, but the real challenge for us is this whole gotcha culture, especially online of like, oh, well, Eddie, you said this in your latest song. Let me go back and do a keyword search in your Twitter and see if you ever said anything about it.
Yeah.
And, and it's just awful that we're always looking to get people. And, how many times have I seen, somebody that did something good, like somebody who truly did something good, and then within 24 hours they're completely torn down because someone found a tweet from, 2012 where they quoted Tupac or something and used the N-word or something, something that was inappropriate. See, we got you, invalidate you, and the definition of what is news is challenging. And, I'm personally frustrated with the media right now in terms of COVID reporting. And there's been so many headlines that have been rightfully called out by other journalists saying, so like, St. Joe's health system fires 134 for refusing to take COVID vaccine. You'll see a headline. Okay, they fired 134, but if you go into the article, the fifth paragraph, the health system had a 99.2% compliance rate for getting vaccinated. Isn't that the story? But instead, we made it look like there was some revolution going on because we focused on the 0.7% that didn't get vaccinated. So there's this, the goosing for SEO. Because remember, every headline is online in that you track the SEO. And I know places that will literally track the SEO every 15 minutes and tweak the headline, see if it goes up. Tweak the headline, see if it goes up. Tweak the headline, tweak this, tweak that, all to boost the SEO. And I'm old school. It's like we need to be doing the right things that are the right things, not just because the Google and the Twitter monsters want them, but we're not there because we have to make money. We're not supported by the government like in other countries. I mean, we're not the BBC. We're not, the CBC, which obviously comes with its own problems of government control of the media and, all the First Amendment stuff. But the media is being strip mined to death. And you're seeing an absolute lack of reporters. People that can do the job are not there. And if they are there, there's not enough of them to get it done. And they're not given the time, space, and money to do it. So saying that you want the truth is great. We all want the truth. The problem is who's going to deliver it.
I don't, what do you teach in college right now?
Journalism.
No, I know, but specifically, what's your area?
Sports. Well, I teach sports writing and sports writing and sports content development and leadership. I do a lot of leadership coaching with my students about how to, make these decisions. How do we have limited time, limited space. How do we make the best decision to serve the public? I teach them a lot about how to find records like police records, charitable records, how to dig. I teach them how to dig. But, my students aren't getting jobs. That's the whole thing. They're getting hired. They're having great careers because sports is still, frankly, relatively more stable. And I use that in air quotes, relatively more stable than other parts of the journalism business because people still care about sports. People still want to click and read about football. People still want to click and read about the World Series. So as long as people are still connected to sports, they're still connected to us, which is great. And, I just read that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution sold a crap ton of physical dead tree newspapers for commemorative sections for the World Series. So people still respond to print. It's not all just the magic box, but it's really hard when I'm talking to students. I mean, most of my students have never had the habit in their entire life of reading a newspaper. In fact, most of them never had a newspaper in their households. You got to remember, most of my students are now born after 9/11. Or born right at 9/11. They have no memory. They have no organic memory of it. And for them, their parents were terrified about the world. So what do? They shut off the news, cut off, we don't want to talk about these things. They're very scary. They're very bad. So their news judgment and their news experience is low. And I think that's another thing we're suffering from in this country is media literacy. And this is one of the lectures I give is, people can't tell the difference between me writing something for the New York Times or TMZ or People or, the Chicago Tribune or The Athletic or Kim Kardashian on Twitter or Joe Blow 123, on Instagram. To them, it's all media. It's all equal weighted. And it's not. It's not.
But Bill Maher, Bill Maher brought this up the other day on his show. One of the Kardashians, I forget her name, but she holds more value. And I touched on this on a podcast that I...
By Kylie.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I blame social media and the phone and Instagram. It has literally ripped values to shreds. Like that phone, and just on a personal level, somebody cares more about followers and their following than their family or their real life friends. The news media cares more about advertising dollars and Don Lemon or Tucker Carlson creating more viewership, and they don't care how they do it. And that to me is I don't know how, and I know I sound dystopian and glass half empty, but I don't know how we can unravel the threads and create some sort of fashionable world to live in if they are pulling on the strings also. It to me, it just, I don't know how this ends well. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. And one thing that I do know is I think social media, and also I will say this, you have to link social media. First, you have the 24-hour cable news cycle. So treating politics as sport, the exit polls, things that, polling nonstop. Politico did that. CNN obviously came in, then Fox, and then MSNBC and the rest. So treating politics as an ongoing reality show with, these characters, good people, bad people. So it's nonstop outrage machine. And we're constantly pushing the anger and the outrage. Did you see this? Oh my God, this whole needing to constantly, that's what Tucker Carlson does. That's what, some of the other people you've mentioned do. They press the outrage button. And it's not just that you can have someone read something, you need them to react, right? So if someone reads Open Court and like, oh, well, that was really good, I like it. But if they don't react or like, my value of having what I did that day is not able to be put into a metric. And that's a challenge. So what do I, if you're in a diabolical mind, what do? I'm going to say some ridiculous crap, throw it out to get you so mad that you're going to respond. Ooh, great. I got them responding. We have engagement, that whole vicious cycle. And I think we've hit the outrage button so much and called each other such horrible names because we were hiding behind a screen.
Yeah.
And I think some things have broken, and some people are unwilling to see, if I'm a Democrat, I can't see a Republican as human, or if I'm a Republican, all the Democrats are enemies. I mean, we've created such polarization without any recourse. And at least in the past, if you're going to call someone a jerk, you'd probably have to do it to their face or some sort of physical, either on the phone or something. Now I can type the most awful things to you, send it to your Twitter account, and hide. And then you ingest that poison. It goes in your head and it goes in your heart, and then you're like, screw them, right? And and especially for those of us that are in creative endeavors, and obviously yours is intensely, highly creative, your soul is out there. The music you make, what you produce as a DJ, that is you. That is an expression of your pureness of your soul. So if somebody decides to come after you on Twitter and say, oh my God, Eddie sucks, blah, 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 that tears at you personally. I mean, that's the cancer. That's the poison.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think people forget I'm not saying that I'm a ditch digger or I'm a physician, but there is something about when even this podcast, I'm not just like, wasting my time or your time and just like talking about, the weather. I'm trying to really create a world where people are thinking below the surface and thinking critically. And you're right. It's easy for somebody who's got like a great 6-pack ab or something to just go take, shots of their abs, or like if they, go drink some smoothie. I mean, that is such innocuous, quote unquote stuff in the grand scheme of things. But I think of that kicker from the Chicago Bears. I'm not comparing myself to him, who missed that kick. And like the next day, they were just spewing vitriol and death threats at him on Twitter. It's like people forget that we are human beings. And if you throw those words out, I think words don't have as much meaning as they used to, or at least the value of them. Well, no, I guess you know what I'm saying. People feel like they can spew them however they like, but people forget that if people read those, it's going to really hurt somebody. It's a really dangerous landscape.
Well, and I've, some of the people that have come after me for various reasons, mostly because of my gender, or they want to pick on how I look or make a comment about my body in some way. When I answer them back, and usually it's a Twitter DM or something like, does this, usually I'm like, do you feel better? I mean, because I don't know if you understood the full ramifications of what you just did. I said, you just tore me down. I wrote an article and you have to come back and call me a fat whatever. And do you feel better? And then 9 times out of 10, oh my God, you're answering me. You're talking to me. I'm like, yeah, because you basically, spewed hate at me. And I just want to say, please think about this.
Yeah.
And then look at this whole thing. Well, I didn't think you were real, and I didn't think you were going to see it, and I was just upset, and it just came out, and I'm really sorry, and I didn't mean it, and you must think I'm a jerk. I mean, so it's interesting to watch this whole facade fall down. And I'm like, I'm not telling you, I'm not here to stand in judgment of you. I'm just telling you the effects of what you did is not right. And I have every right to stand up for myself in front of you for, I said, I guess one guy said, he really used some language on me. I said, does anyone come to your workplace, stand there and call you every name in the book? Well, no, that'd be crazy. Well, that's what you just did to me.
Yeah. It's funny.
Oh.
I like Jordan Peterson a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
but it's funny. I will see him on Twitter responding to trolls that are just spewing this hate, and I'm thinking, what, I've gotten some, very little, but I don't respond to those people because it's sort of like. But this is sort of my point to sort of the productivity of our culture. I think we waste so much time. If you add up, if Jordan Peterson and intellectuals and writers are actually responding to people on Twitter, if you multiply that times all the people that are wasting time responding and spewing venom, I think that's why we have a collapse of society and community.
I will say this though, I have a few friends that will screenshot and shame, like, "Hey, is this you?" And then tag them back, such tag them, say hi. Hi Joe Blow 123. I googled you, and hi to the wife and kids. Do they know that you said this to me? And then just kind of let something like throwing like the raw meat to the wolves.
Yeah.
And in some cases I do support that. Other cases I do ignore. Other times I block. Other times I report them because they're a little on the bounds. But I think the humanization of it comes back to I didn't know. I didn't think you'd see it. I didn't. And my favorite is I didn't know you were real. And I'm like, I'm not some fictional character that's living inside of a box. I mean, but I mean, I've gotten that enough times now that that there's something to that. Like, I didn't know you were real. I'm like, well, what did you think I was?
Yeah.
And then the magic phrase of, if I was your wife, your daughter, your sister, your friend, how would you feel if someone, talked to me like that? Oh, I'd kill him.
Yeah. Let me ask you.
It's troubling.
At some point, I get the sense I think I remember, but I apologize if I forget, and you'll remind me. You had the intention of getting into sports professionally at some point, and then no, okay, it was just something it was something you loved to do. But I guess,
oh God, no.
No, but okay, so
No.
but at what point then did you want to get into journalism?
Oh, I've wanted to be a sports writer since I was in third grade.
Oh, really? Okay.
So there's been no ambiguity. This has been the path. I come from a family of journalists. My uncle's an amazing journalist in Germany. I've always been a really good athlete. Grew up in Detroit, which is sports mad, like Cleveland. So it was kind of the right alchemy was there. I did play college tennis, but trust me, I'm 5'5". I'm a foot too short. Way too slow. I was good enough to grind at a certain level, but the rest of it, no. I played one person who ended up going pro in high school, and she destroyed me in 20 minutes. So, and then she ended up playing Steffi Graf like 2 months later, and Steffi Graf did the same thing to her that she did to me.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like,
yeah.
So I'd lose in 10 minutes to Steffi Graf. Fantastic. So no
Okay.
illusions of
Well, then I
ever
can.
going pro.
But I guess my question, and I asked, I had a journalist on a couple weeks ago. When did you? Because this collapsing of what I see didn't just start, a year ago.
Oh no.
But when did you get the sense, whether you were in college or was it your first job? When were you feeling that something was sort of breaking at the seams?
That's a good question. Well, the layoffs started in earnest right after 9/11. So I would say about 2002, things started getting really nasty. Like that's when the wave after wave after wave of layoffs started. Before that, though, I was concerned that, I work for Gannett, which is a major corporation, USA Today. They had a lot of big papers, and they were not handling the internet well. I mean, just, the idea of having a web page or, just it was print first, digital second. And it's like, I'm not so sure. So I remember when I first joined Facebook, which I think was about 2004, 2005, I was pretty early adopter of it. And I wanted to do a piece about how athletes were using Facebook. Basically, I went after Michigan and Michigan State athletes for just unbelievable stuff they were posting on Facebook that was just wholly inappropriate. Frankly, some of it was criminal.
Yeah.
Reaction I get was like, well, why would we write about that? It's like the kids are doing that. Like, so, so the stodginess was bad. So you combine that with, the collapse of a lot of things, 9/11. And then it just accelerated and accelerated. And then, all the infamous disruptors started coming in. So then, making the media the enemy for everything has been probably the last 10 years, both politicians and pop culture and this whole narrative of, take your content back and monetize yourself. I think the most dangerous thing that I've seen, which is probably been going on the last 10 years, is telling even as young as high school students, what's your brand? Who are you? It's like, your brand should be just to be a kid, a normal person in the world. You don't need what's your brand and what's your image going to be like? And, I've heard that enough from my students. Like, where did you get this from? Your brand. You're 21 years old in college, just trying to live life. Well, I need to have my brand, and I have to make sure that my brand's on point. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the whole concept of self and having to make yourself the star. So there's a lot of things that conflate together. So there wasn't an aha moment where I saw, the burning fire in the sky. It's been coming in pieces.
Wait, but educate me a bit. What's the why 9/11? Why was that an impact on journalism?
Because 9/11 basically, put this country kind of in a depression. It's almost like COVID 1.0, that travel stopped, which means advertising dollars dried up, which means sports stopped, in some degrees. I mean, it's this chain reaction of things that happened. And also a lot of, Silicon Valley, again, there's books on this, some, things started shifting, a lot of the dot-com bubble started bursting. So a lot of the money that was getting shifted around and stuff kind of imploded. And I know with 9/11, the real problem too was that, a lot of the traditional ways that newspapers made money with classified ads, Craigslist, I mean, like everything else, disruption creates opportunity. So even how, so like how we do business now has changed with Zoom. There's not going to be as many people going on job interviews, unless they're going to do this first or do this, they're not going to bring people in at all. They're just going to do it this way. That's going to save money. Well, that's going to cost other people money and travel, hotels, things like that. So it's like this weird ripple effect. And just go with USA Today. USA Today, the New York Times, and I think sometimes even the Washington Post used to be left at the door of every single hotel. That was the greatest scam.
Yeah.
500 copies here. Well, that all dried up.
Yeah. Let me ask you, I'm just thinking as you're chatting, I'm not anti-free speech. I'm not condemning creativity and artistry. I think I have a home studio. It certainly saved me money to be able to record a lot here. Obviously, I still have to record the drums. But I personally think, even though we have all these opportunities and writers can go to Substack and musicians can use GarageBand or Logic, and I feel like it's harder now than ever for artists or writers to make a living as a writer. Do you agree with that theory or not?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Well, number one, and I think you probably will agree with me, everyone thinks they can do it. So the market is saturated with 100 wannabes. Number two, people don't value what they do. Well, just write something. It can't be that hard. And number three, the value of what we do has been, the people that are in charge set the price. So, I mean, I can ask for $5 a word for my publishers, but if they don't give it to me, I'm not going to get it. So that's why the Substack model is like, okay, well, I'm going to value my work at what my work is. And if the market agrees, I win. Now, if the market does not agree, you don't win at all.
Right.
So, but everyone, I'm sure you get that. Oh yeah, my son's got a band and he's on YouTube. He's really successful. They look like got 1,000 whatevers, or my daughter's very successful as an influencer. She's on TikTok. I hear stuff like that, and that's actually the interesting thing is in the last couple of years, say last 3 years. So I've been at Michigan State now. This is my 7th year. Last 3 years, I've got more students, usually female, saying, I want to be a journalist, but I'd rather first be a TikTok influencer or a Instagram influencer and make some money, and then I'll move into journalism because you make no money. Wow. And that's the next thing. If you want to attract the very best talent, the people that are willing to take the slings and arrows, go to the city council meetings, dig up the stuff, do the things we need done, we got to be paying them more than $21,000 a year and working them 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
So, that's where you start. And TV, and here's the thing, that's print. TV is lower. I saw a starting salary for a job for a TV anchor, entry level, very small TV station, middle of nowhere, but they were offering 17.5.
That's that's
Which
ridiculous.
means you have to get another job. So I mean, I do know some people that are working entry level, just trying to get their foot in the door and grind their way up. They're doing Uber, Shipped, all that other stuff. The grind. But I mean, the problem is they're still doing a full-time job within another job just to support their other job. I mean, at some point you're going to break. You're physically going to break. Burnout's happening, and I'm seeing enough burnout in a lot of places. But the creative is not respected.
I do feel like Da Vinci artists were paid very well. They were the high class, and something shifted, and it's weird. I sort of remember, you two giving that free record away on the iPod like 15 years ago, and I was like thinking that was awesome, and the reaction was, "How dare they just invade my iPod?" I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And it's strange. I actually have a little disdain towards actors now, and in this like we treat them like royalty as a society, or we think like this coverage of Alec Baldwin and even the Emmys, the optics of everybody there who's an actor isn't wearing a mask, but then people are walking around serving them and they have to wear a mask. So I know I'm possibly contradicting myself because I think our culture looks up to actors too much. But then I also think back to the days when, Eddie Vedder and Bono, that ability to transform a stadium and to sort of sweep the energy and literally transform the energy in a stadium. I mean, that is a unique talent. I mean, music has this power, a good book has this power. So I don't know what's... In the one hand, I am frustrated that we as a society don't value art, but it's complicated. Something shifted, and I can't quite understand it.
Well, I don't think, I'm not saying we need a class system. I mean, because that was wrong, but we have no understanding of who is truly skilled and who's just doing crap.
Yeah.
And, everyone, I mean, we've kind of flattened everything out. And I really, to your point about Da Vinci, Da Vinci was thrown out of Florence by the Catholic Church because he got a little too funky, a little too cool to science. So he actually fled to a noble family that was in the French monarchy. And he lived out the last couple of years of his life in France, and that's where he invented all kinds of cool stuff. And he's buried in France. I've been to the castle where it's in Amboise, France. But the whole thing was they threw him out. They threw his ass out in the street, like, see ya, cut the money off. So be careful. We don't want the Da Vinci fate. We're going to have to flee to another country. But
I think you knew I agree with you. But
I know your point. But I'm saying, but he got hooked up twice. That's my point. He just didn't get it first. He got twice.
Right.
And that was interesting to see the patronage. But not everything's created the same. And I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to December the 1st because I will be at SoFi Stadium for BTS. I got tickets, and they are one of the few acts I think that can generate that electricity. I've seen U2.
Yeah.
I have not seen Pearl Jam, but the few acts that I have seen that have literally like torn it up to a level where you almost felt like your whole body like was tingling was Eminem here in Detroit at the peak of his 8 Mile. That was insane but everyone was in sync with him. It was locals. It was him with us. U2. I've seen them twice. That was just electric.
Yeah.
And I, from what I've seen and what I think, because of this being the first big post-pandemic concert in 2 years, and the band has gone to even higher stratosphere, it's going to be BTS too. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. I hear SoFi is super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. But the problem is that we have, think of your field. American Idol, The Voice, all these things, even these singer-songwriter competitions have totally it's not McDonald's. You just don't take somebody up, match them up with someone for 5 minutes and say, now a star is born. I mean, the amount of time you spend working on your craft, judging what you do, um, you know, you know, living in it, sweating with it, hating it, loving it. We act like we could just manufacture everything,
Hmm.
and we can't. And yes, you can auto tune yourself. You could, logic yourself. There's 100 things you can do that make yourself better and easier. But in the end, if you don't have the talent and the drive combined with the hard work, it's not going to go anywhere. And the sad part with both what we do is, even if we do our very best, like we knock it out of the park, like it is amazing. If the audience doesn't respond to it, it doesn't matter corporately, right? You've got
Yeah.
to sell records. I've got to sell books. So that's the frustration with what we do, that even doing our job well is reward for ourselves, obviously. But commercially,
Yeah.
if you're not Olivia Rodrigo,
Who I
you
think
know,
is, I know, and I think I don't understand the,
no, and I like her, but I'm just saying it's like the alchemy between someone who's turning out something really good on Spotify that you'll never hear from versus, the plays.
yeah.
You can't rig that.
Two more points. I asked you what makes you, what inspires you to write an open court, but let's go a little below. Let's go a little deeper. I mean, what do you feel like? At what age did you feel like writing was something that you had to do or wanted to do?
My whole life.
But why? Like who
That's
inspired that?
why
Or
I'm highly verbal.
hmm,
I could. My brain is just wired very, very, very into words,
hmm,
words and languages and reading. I'm a crazy reader. So, uh, open court to me is a way where I can get out my authentic voice. And I take that very seriously, in that there are very few women in our society that are allowed to have a stable, regular, uncensored platform about sports. And I
hmm.
can do what I want, when I want, how I want, and that's a privilege. Now, it's a privilege I've earned by doing this job very well for a long time. So, I mean, I know I'm playing with fire, but I know how to, handle the matches. But, I really want to bring my perspective to things. And my perspective is different, that, I am someone who loves sports, but I'm someone who can also hate sports. I'm someone who is American, but my family is, immigrants. My mom's an immigrant, things like that. So, I am an American, but I'm not an American. So, I mean, I know I bring different things. I love medicine. I love science, so I can bring that in. But I'm also trying to be a real student of human nature. And
Yeah.
I've never wanted to take athletes and just distill them down to their fastball or their forehand or whatever. I mean, they're a human being, and seeing them as some of the most complex people out there, because they're highly successful, but at the same time, some of them are absolute failures as human beings. And seeing what happens to them when they retire is, a cautionary tale for all of us. It's almost, the Icarus flying too close to the
Yeah.
sun. So I do. I mean, I am different. I'm not going to quote to you statistics from Tom Seaver from 1972. I will never play fantasy football. I honestly, like today, I have not had the TV on all day. Nothing's been on in this house.
Hmm.
I was good. Don't need the NFL. I
Yeah.
can look up the scores. I can tell you what happened. Don't need it. So I am different, and I think we need different voices, because a lot of sports media, should I say, is about the yelling, the finger pointing, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Skip Baylesses, and that's not me. It'll never
Yeah.
be me, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be me. So being able to be my authentic self and write seriously about the issues that we need to talk about, and then dive into goofy crap and my love of BTS, it's all there. It's all me. So for the first time, I think I can really show all sides of myself. And also, the other writing that I do, like I have a new children's book coming out,
Hmm.
at the end of the year, things like that. I do other stuff. So, but it's just, this is the place for me to be me, like my little clubhouse.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. I resonate, and this will be our last area, I guess. This could go on for 2 hours, but I don't think so. So you brought up something, and my last guest said the same thing, and I'm realizing it's probably why I write also, and even have the podcast. And I started writing poems this last week, because I think I finished the book. It should come out next year. Finished the record. I'm sort of asking myself, like, what do I do now? Because it's I'm one of those people where I guess I started writing poems a week ago because I'm trying to get into the habit of just writing every day because maybe that'll sort of like get the brain flowing and something I write will inspire me to, write a book or I'm not sure yet. But I think I do think I have a unique perspective on the world. And I'm trying to make sense of the world through what I write and talk about and sing about. And I was watching the show Billions, and these two characters are having a tiff, and one of them says after a while, they say, "There's nothing that I can say that will get you to change your mind or look at it in a different way." And I'm going to bring up Aaron Rodgers and you're in bringing up Joe Rogan, and I think what I see going on is evil and sinister, and I don't. I think why people are getting upset with Joe Rogan, and this isn't politics. I personally don't like either of the people I don't like the last guy. I don't like the current guy, but I think the media, the news media, and people are upset with Joe Rogan because he's saying what his experience is. And I think a lot of people resonate with his experience. And I have trouble with the reaction to the pandemic, to me, doesn't measure with what the pandemic is. I'm hearing anywhere from zero point 0.7 to 1% of the population is dying from this. Of course, those numbers go exponentially lower the younger you get. When I see Colin Powell, who is 84 years old, had multiple myeloma, and the newspapers are saying COVID complications caused his death. It's sort of like, no, COVID complications did not cause his death. He probably died because he's 84 and had multiple myeloma. Now, I don't know if he was on chemo, but I understand, like the way that I'll focus it a bit. The way Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers handled it was clearly they didn't handle it well. I mean, you can get into that a bit, but I do resonate with what Aaron Rodgers is talking about. I had health issues from a young age. I take pride in my health, and this global immunization going on where everybody should do this, I just think is dangerous. And I think anybody like Joe Rogan, or in this case Aaron Rodgers, or in my case me, just saying that that's potentially dangerous and evil, I think there's something to be said there. Now, if you're over 60, if you have 3 to 4 multiple conditions or underlying conditions, yeah, I think it probably makes sense to get the vaccine. But up until a year ago, kids were not the issue, and now just out of nowhere, they're forcing kids 5 to 12 to get the vaccine. I mean, I'm not anti-vaccine. I just think there's some strange strings being pulled, and it actually, I try not to think about it too much because when I do, I kind of get scared out of my mind thinking, where is this going?
Well, I guess the bigger question to me is, I don't think whatever facts, data, research are presented, people, if they choose not to believe anything other than their own information, doesn't matter what it is. So to me, I respect those that don't want the vaccine if they can explain to me with real science. When Aaron Rodgers says that he can't get the J&J vaccine because of all these people that were dying, so far statistically we know it was 6 women under the age of, I think, 40 that were, and I also think that they were saying that they had clotting issues anyway. So 6. So Aaron Rodgers, an NFL, a 39-year-old male quarterback, is worried about the 6 women. Okay, that doesn't make science
Completely
logic. And also, my favorite part about that whole thing is, if Aaron Rodgers is truly worried about women getting blood clots and dying in this country, then he should go on an active campaign to stop oral birth control, because that causes 7 times more death and clotting. So our comparison of science is not great about that. And then the next thing that kind of blows my mind in some ways is I actually know people that I consider friends that insist that this is all overblown and not a hoax. That a lot of these, that the numbers are inflated and it's just being done for insurance. And, I personally have had 6 people in my life die from COVID. 2 of them were my age and were healthy, just gone. Took them took them in January. They got the Delta variant, and it just took them out. This was before they could get vaccinated. I'm not saying if they had gotten vaccinated, it would have happened. I don't know, but it happened. Others had parents pass away. One parent was very healthy, other was not. So the circumstances are different. How desperate, and I totally agree with Colin Powell. That guy, and Colin Powell himself said that in July. One of his last interviews, like, dude, I'm sick. I've had a great life. I'm going to do what I can do to stay around because I want to be here for my family. But, I'm not stupid, and actually I respected that about him. He didn't hide what was going on. It was like this shock. But I think we have a problem in this country of we're right now in a very anti-authority. We're tearing down all of our institutions. So, tearing down teachers, tearing down the media, tearing down government, tearing down doctors, tearing down science, tearing down anything that seems to have authority. We need to level it. And that's the internet is, the pot shots. Now, look, we absolutely need to clean stuff up. I mean, there is corruption, there is crap. I mean, you can point to the bad things all over the place. But at some point, when will people believe that something is okay? And I don't know for some of these people, there'll ever be enough data. They're like, there's not enough research. I don't know what I need. Well, what do you need? You need 5 years worth of data? 10 years? I mean, I don't understand the construct. Now, for myself, I'm vaccinated and I've had the booster because if I get sick, I've had some lung issues. It's not going to be good for me. So I'm willing to bet on science over me playing in the street with COVID.
Yeah.
And that's just the scientific calculation I made and looking at some of the data. Now, what kind of stuns me, though, is I have some friends that refuse to get their children immunized at all for anything. And they lie. And that's the part I find, that's the Aaron Rodgers. If you don't want to do immunizations, that is fine. But then don't lie to the school system. If you're going to take that stand, then stand behind it.
Yeah, but don't they have to lie because they're going to be kicked out of school? I mean, I guess then they just have to figure out and do homeschool or figure out a solution.
The point is, though, we had polio, we had smallpox, we had things in this country. I mean, and talking with some of my doctor friends, like, you know what? I think if we had polio today, that people wouldn't take the vaccine.
That's a great point. I think, though, I guess I feel like I believe it's there. I just feel like, unfortunately, corporate agendas, special interests, they have manipulated and pulled the strings to benefit their own interests. And it's almost impossible for me to let go of that stance.
But that's the poison that we've all been infected with. That awful things are happening without a doubt, and those awful things are coming out. But then colors review, is anything okay?
You maybe trust that what's going on, there's no nefarious intentions, because it's hard for me.
There's always nefarious intentions if there's profit to be made. I mean, but to me, the greater good of me protecting myself and also protecting those I love and protecting society outweighs whatever nefariousness I see. And withholding the vaccine from my own body will do nobody any good, because you will not be stopping these nefarious sources. And B, I can get sick, and C, I could give COVID to somebody else. So that's my decision tree is very simple.
Okay.
All the other stuff that gets thrown on the either side is whatever. And the whole thing is, I do work in a very people-driven business. I'm around people all the time.
That makes sense.
I don't have so I don't have the privilege to say, well, you know what? I'm just not going to go out, or, I'm not going to do this. I mean, I'm around my students. I'm around, I'm around other places. I'm in arenas. I can't do that. So
it's weird, though.
I was thoughtful.
I don't think of you, though, if you didn't, it's strange, though. I don't think of you as being a selfish person if you don't get the vaccine. Even if it's weird. I feel like the news media has twisted the story and really judged people. Like, I walk up and down the aisle at the grocery store. If it's really about our health, all of those sugary cereals would not be in the grocery aisle.
Well, no, because it's making money for somebody.
Yeah. I just feel like there have been so many ailments for hundreds of years. Suicide is exponentially on the rise. To me, this is about picking and choosing what matters. And I don't know. It's hard for me not to think like all there are more car deaths in this world than ever. And yet car companies are putting more big screens on the front of those panels to distract people. So it's sort of like, come on, people. I don't
Well, and I'll flip it on you. What's the number one cause of concussion in the United States? And was it, oh, it's got to be football. No, it's car crashes.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I won't let my son play football. It's too dangerous. But yeah, but the most dangerous thing that happened was you driving from home to practice with him in the car.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, that is the most dangerous part of football practice is getting to football practice.
Interesting.
But it's anyway, I just wish we were able to have discussions, of sanity and people coming up with, the part that kills me is they won't take the vaccine. So fine, don't take the vaccine. But now they will take the monoclonal antibodies, which is developed by a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, completely.
With research. So it's like, wait a second, you didn't want the vaccine, so it's dangerous, but you're taking remdesivir or whatever, or the monoclonals, and isn't that falling under the same branch of science that you're already distrusting?
Yeah.
I don't understand how that works. So that to me is like, if you're going to walk your walk. Absolutely. I mean, it's your body. And, I won't even get into the whole irony of the big crowd that wants, freedom and autonomy is, my body, my choice is very limited in how they interpret that, and especially in certain states like, Texas. So only certain parts of our country get to make that decision at all times. And we'll just leave that there. But it's really challenging for me to understand the hypocrisy.
Oh God.
Well, it's like, if you don't want medicine to treat you, fine. That understood. You have a right to be suspicious, and I will appreciate that. But then don't go to the hospital and say, please save me. I now want every treatment that is available. Or my friends that work in hospitals say that these people that are huge anti-vax activists, like on a high level, unfortunately have been getting sick, end up in the hospital and demand to be vaccinated. Like, that's not how this works. You can't get vaccinated once you're sick.
Right.
So the basic understanding of science and medicine, and again, it comes back to literacy. Our literacy about our own bodies, our literacy about science and peer-reviewed research is crap, which is why all this infection stuff can spread. The worst offenders on, Instagram and Twitter are these so-called health experts that are just spreading crap because they're getting clicks. They don't care. They don't actually care about what they say. It's getting clicks. Coming back to where we started. It's the outrage.
Well, I'll leave you with this. I reached out to you about a month ago, and then just life sort of got busy. But I have here's the thing. I take as much initiative as I can in my own health, eating well, taking vitamins, and swimming. We have another similarity beyond the cats. I used to swim like crazy, then I just stopped. But then through the pandemic, I've really gotten back into it. I swim 4 times a week now. I imagine you can't swim right now because of the weather, but maybe you can.
Oh no, I swim inside.
Okay, good.
We have roofs in Michigan. You know this.
I'm still swimming outdoors out here, which
I know. Yada yada.
So, but it's funny, I get these ads on Instagram. They want me to buy these headphones where I listen to music while I swim. And I just think I can't do that. I really enjoy hearing the water and not just allowing my mind to think and come up with new ideas. Why do you like to swim so much?
It's peaceful, and I've got a breaking news alert that will rock your world. I now have one of those things, and I used it yesterday for the first time, and it was awesome.
Why? Why though? Tell, because I can't do it.
I put on classical music.
Okay.
So I put on classical, and I pounded out a mile. And I swam for an hour, so I pounded out like 72 laps or something.
Wow.
And it's just a little thing. It's called Zygo.
Yeah.
This little thing, it actually transmits through your bones, which is kind of wild. And no, it was great. But what I really like is you can turn it off if you want, or I can do tempo. So I can have a coach. They have like little programs like, hey, keep this pace or whatever. So you can make what you want. I'm not saying I'm going to use it every time, but I did like it.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. First half of the workout, I did classical. I did some Bach. But the second half, I went hip hop. So I did a little skipped ahead of my Spotify. I had a pre-program, but I wasn't sure if I'd like it. And actually, a guy at the pool a few weeks ago, I'd say actually more like 2 months ago, I saw that. I said, hey, how does that work? I was just curious about the science because it rests right here. It doesn't go in your ear. And he said, you want to try it?
Yeah.
I put it on. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, this is wild. This is wild. It's like, wow, this is really going through my bones. It sounds good. So I thought, you know what? I'll try it. Let's just try it. So I'm not going to say I'm going to use it every time, but I did like it.
Interesting. Gosh, I'm feeling the curiosity increase here.
I was curious, but I did like it. But no, I won't every time use it. I think there are times where I do need to be alone with my thoughts. But yesterday, I just felt like trying it. It was great. It was really great. And the pool, the club I work out at has a dome, like one of those like soccer dome type things over the outdoor pool. And then they also have an indoor pool. So between the two, you can choose. But I like the outdoor. It's a little deeper, and I like having the big roof. It just feels a little more airy, like I'm outside.
Yeah.
But yeah. So no, swimming with music, it might be a thing. So
okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, maybe I'll consider it. It's really saved me through the last 18. I mean, I'm sure I would have found something else, but there's something about being in the water. It's been so healing and wonderful.
It's freeing. Well, you're safe, but you're away. And you have your own place, your own speed, and and I don't know, it's just like my own little place. But yeah, for me, swimming, tennis, and lifting weights have been my salvation. So those each accomplish different things, but that's been a real thing for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, last time I spoke to you, I actually did feel anxious beforehand. I wasn't nervous to talk to you and Matt. It was just I was having a weird day, but I didn't feel anxious before this. It's weird. I had a podcast last Sunday at this time. I think I like this time. It's good.
I think Matt made you nervous, so we're gonna blame Matt.
He'll be back on the next one. But Joanne, this, as always, this is therapeutic, and it's great to speak to somebody that's like-minded and articulate and creative. And I feel like this was another great talk. I think people really enjoy it.
Okay, well, I appreciate it as always, and more importantly, our cats made cameo appearances, so
that's
we
right.
accomplished.
Mine were. Did you see? Mine were running in and out. I'm sure.
Yours was having a Zoom fest. Mine is conked out for the pre-nap before going to sleep for the night. So it's been a hard day.
I was just thinking, would you want to be on television and do like reporting and that? I don't know. Like
I've done some TV
because you're very good at it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've done some TV, but I'm a writer at heart. So I mean, if I need to do it, I'll do it. When I worked for ESPN, I did some on-camera stuff. But I'm very good. I don't do this because I want to be famous or popular. So it's kind of a different mindset. So if I need to do it, I do it, and if I don't, I'm good. I mean, my gosh, I was on the Stephen A. Smith show, so I achieved the nirvana and the pinnacle, and since then it's been straight down. So
I'm gonna have to find that online. Well, nice to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, take care and love to the kitties.
Likewise. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Was that a great talk, or was that a great talk? Always wonderful having Joanne on the show. Remember, you can find her newsletter, sign up at opencourt.bulletin.com. She's on Instagram at JoanneG313, website Joanne C. Gerstner, and I know she's on Twitter also. I'm forgetting the handle, but Joanne Gerstner on Twitter. She's a fantastic writer. I really enjoy her newsletter. I think it's coming, as she said, Tuesdays and Fridays. Really thought-provoking. And I don't know, I think this new model, like Substack, like Bulletin on Facebook, I'm really intrigued by how it all unfolds. I think it's already pretty obvious that it's becoming very successful. So I think this is great. So awesome talk. Thanks so much to all of you for listening. You know where to find me. Instagram at Eddie Cohn or the Spiritual Spiral Podcast. Website IamEddieCohn.com. New record, Dystopian Days, everywhere on all streaming sites, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. As always, thanks to you. And Joanne, thanks again for joining me on the show, but thanks to you for listening and being a part of the Downward Facing Spiritual Spiral Podcast.